It's a cold, brisk day in Calgary, Alberta, but that hasn't stopped Darren from enjoying it. Freedom is something he no longer takes for granted, especially after spending over 20 years of his life in prison.
In addiction, they have kind of a rule: you either deal or steal to get your drugs. So I found myself I wasn't a very good dealer, so I chose to steal.
A repeat offender, drugs was his addiction, his way of life, he says. And because of that, the cycle continued for years. Every time he would end up behind bars, he'd get clean and find God. But as soon as he was released, he'd go back to his old habits once again.
Prison for me was my normal way of living. You know, I fit in good, I knew how to get around in there, and it's just a city of men within a wall. I need God's help to do that.
But after being a citizen of that city time and time again, it truly became a way of life for him. Until 5 years ago when he met community chaplain Peter Worsley at the Drumheller Penitentiary. And slowly, his perception of life started to change.
He kind of had one foot in one world, wanting to make the change, and still keeping one foot in the old world of addictions. So he's been out several times over the 5 years and gone back because of the addictions. This time I think is different for Darren.
Different because Darren says in December 2008, he hit rock bottom, landing back in jail once again. But this time would prove to be different than the many times before.
I was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you know, when that pain became more to, you know, the way I was living, it was easier for me to decide to make a change.
Darren decided then and there to accept the help Peter Worsley and his team at the Mennonite Central Committee's Community Justice Ministry was offering him, a circle of support he never had before.
Darren's gotten into a very good support network in the community through the drug court, through the Dream Center, through volunteers that have, you know, stayed as part of his support network, and the church, other people that he's met with. So he's doing quite well right now, and I don't think he's used for a long time. So, you know, we're very happy about that, and he's working. So you see a big change right there.
And that's what the Community Justice Ministries does best: befriending inmates, creating a support system around them, and helping both men and women so that hopefully, once they leave prison, they will never return.
And what I try to do is provide some spiritual and practical support to them to help them to reintegrate. I try to connect them into the community. There's a lot of resources in the community, a lot of really good people. A lot of ways that the men and women can get help, but sometimes they just don't know how to connect. They're not aware. So I think in a nutshell, I would say that I'm a little bit of a liaison for them in some ways. I do befriend them, of course, and get to know them myself, but I look at what their needs are and then try to find ways that the community can help meet those needs and ways that they can join in and be part of the community in a positive way.
And for those who have a long sentence ahead of them and don't get visitors while they are incarcerated, the MCC has that area covered as well, with a program called M2W2, Man to Man, Woman to Woman. Gord Hutchinson has run the program for a number of years and has seen the impact a simple visit makes to someone on the inside.
It is more chatting about whatever the guys want to. Some of these guys are afraid of religious people, and that they might have something they want to come out of this. So I tell them, we're here to be a friend, wherever that friendship goes. And it's amazing how often it does go along the lines of faith, because the volunteers are believers. But I've spent time with these volunteers talking to them about using their ears first and foremost and listening. And it's amazing how much these guys need somebody to talk to.
And that desire to have someone to talk to continues even after some have been released. That's why the MCC gathers volunteers who don't mind staying connected with many of the ex-offenders. That's what Ernie has done for the last 5 years.
Well, they really need the help. Quite often they come out, they have no one. They're kind of dropped off downtown. They have very little money, if any at all. No place to stay, nobody to talk to, no job. If they don't get some help of some sort, they have no chance. I think they would almost all go back. So I just try to help, just try to be a friend.
But there are critics, those who are against restorative justice programs. But for Worsley, it's all about helping people move forward.
It's not something that we get a lot of people interested in, because a lot of people aren't interested in helping people that have committed crimes. They would rather put them in the pen and say, let's forget about them, that's what they deserve. And you know, maybe there is some role certainly for punishment or moving people out of the society, but there's certainly a role for bringing them back into the community. 3 months.
But while Peter and his team try their hardest to overcome those roadblocks, there are some ex-offenders who can't bear the uphill battle and instead turn back to the life they once led.
You know, I've seen guys that have gotten jobs and doing really well, and then somebody, who knows who, lets the employer know that they had done time, and then they get let go. Before, here in Alberta, you have 3 months as an employer, a 3-month period where you can let someone go without a reason. So I've seen that happen, which is really sad, because the guy is actually starting to pick himself up, starting to do well, starting to pay taxes, happy about himself, contributing, and all of a sudden the bottom drops out from under him and he's got to start over again. So it can be very, very difficult in that way.
But for those who do make it through, the change can be remarkable. Matt was arrested a couple of years ago when he made the grave mistake of mixing prescription drugs with alcohol. With no previous record, he went on a crime spree, holding up 7-Eleven stores across the province. He was charged with robbery with a weapon, arson, resisting arrest, and possession of a weapon, and was sentenced to 6 years in prison. He ended up serving only part of his sentence before being released. But while there, he also met Peter, got his life back on track, and is now in school.
But I know God puts people in your path and sends people to help you. And so I definitely think there's been a lot of help from God through the chaplains and the ministers at Drumheller and through a lot of the Christian groups that come in and minister to the guys, and through the Mennonite Central Committee and those guys who care about the inmates, and recognize that there's usually deeper issues lying behind why they're committing crimes and why they're in jail.
Matt did one really crazy thing just once, I would say, but it was really bad because it ended him up in a federal penitentiary. But he's out now and he's going to school and trying to upgrade and get his education. He's been working, going to church. He's just contributing in many ways. Like I said, the guys have lots they can contribute. And when they do start to do that, we're really happy. We're really happy.
And while success is weighed differently for every person that decides to accept the help offered to them from the Community Justice Ministry, Peter, Gord, and Ernie, and the rest of the team are happy with every step each ex-offender chooses to take to make their lives better.
Well, I think the credit goes back to the guy himself, to be really honest. He's the guy who's determined he's going to make a change. We're just there. I'm there. The rest of the community is there to say, okay, if you want to make that change, we're here to support you in it. So, it's a wonderful thing.
And something both Darren and Matt see as a step in the right direction. In Calgary, Alberta, Magdalene John, 100 Huntley Street.